The mic's have to face away.
Okay.
Hey, it looks like Facebook's working.
It is. We got it.
Excellent. Well, real quick, Dr. Jackson, I'm going to have you count back from 5, then have your guest do it right after you, just so we can hear you two together. All right.
Okay. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Now have her count, please.
Go ahead and count.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
I think we're going to be good. Keith, you just bring down that gain just a hair, and I think we'll be perfect, brother.
Got you on both.
Yeah,
both
just
right?
just a little
Okay.
bit. Yeah, just a little bit on both, and we'll be perfect, man.
Okay. Let me see. I want to get this guy over here. I took one green notch off there and one green notch off of Dr. Jackson. Ladies, if you could both say hi, Josh, in that good lady voice.
Hi, Josh.
Hi, Josh.
Perfect. All right, we got less than a minute before we go live.
Sounds great.
And Dr. Jackson, I just wanted to double check that commercial that we played last week. Are we playing that one again this week?
Yes, please.
Okay. And that is the People's Nurse, just to confirm.
Yes.
Okay, I just want to make sure. All right, we got about 20 seconds. Once you hear that music, we are live.
Awesome.
Welcome to Living Strong, the flip side of adversity, with your host, Dr. Veer Jackson. On our program, we explore the flip side of every story. And when you open yourself up to both sides, you'll realize that there are life lessons, powerful tools, and so much more. Now, here is Dr. Veer Jackson.
Hello and welcome to Living Strong, the flip side of adversity. I am Dr. Veerdra Jackson, and I am the CEO and creative behind Living Strong Consulting. And I'm excited for our episode. We are continuing our conversation in September. Our theme this month is education, empowerment, and equity. And my guest is a girlfriend. She is one of those sister circle friends that absolutely, every time we encounter one another, she encourages my soul. Not only with her smile, her temperament, but you ever have that friend that makes sure you know that you have your flowers while you're still here. And her encouragement absolutely has blessed me. So now I'm going to share who she is with you. She is the founder and CEO of Embrace Life Enterprises. Dr. Renai Ellison began her journey as a life and leadership development coach and consultant nearly 15 years ago after a successful career as a full-figured model, actress, and international television host. She now serves as a mentor coach with the Institute for Professional Excellence in Coaching, where she received her second coaching certification in 2015. Renai is also credentialed as an International Coaching Federation, the professional certification coach. Renai's career is rooted in an impressive 30 plus years as a television host, actor, and model. After a stint as a model and show host on QVC, she created a clothing line on QVC and then co hosted a home decor and craft series on HGTV called Our Place. Yeah, I want them to understand because when I tell people I fell into this, but I have guests on who this is their thing. Renai hosted For Women Only, a live medical call-in show on WPSJ TV. She embarked on national media tours and appeared on countless morning shows across the country, offering often serving as fundraising host for New Jersey network public television. Renai, she produces and has hosted Embrace Life with Renai, a human interest television program sponsored by a healthcare system which aired on WMCN in Philadelphia and later on This Is TV. She has also hosted Join in Our Town, a public affair television show. But today, she is going to, in this conversation, take down the mask. She has been on several platforms, but has not always been able to be her authentic self. Mm-hmm. And so from a place of experience, of having been in the public eye, but not actually being able to see your own self in the mirror, she has some tools and some skills, some mindset shifts, and some truths to share with us. And she's challenging all of us to embrace life.
Woo!
Yes.
That's the best part right there.
Yes. Embrace
That's the
life.
best part, Vidra.
Welcome to the show,
Thank
Dr.
you.
Renai Ellison.
Thank you, Dr. Jackson.
Oh, this is going to be so good. I'm so excited. I've been waiting all day for this. So I just laid out your credentials, your experience that in multiple platforms, in different ways. But when we prepared for this conversation, you said, Virdra, I want to talk about authenticity.
Yeah.
Why is that so important to you?
It's important because everything that you read was, I mean, it's so sweet of you to read the whole bio, Vidra. A little embarrassing, but my entire life, for the first part of my adulthood, right out of college, was spent in front of a television camera. And when you enter into that industry, there is a plasticity, there is a facade, there's a fakeness and an inauthenticity that you have to form in order to be successful. You have to be polished, you have to be pristine, you have to be, and I wasn't any of those things. I was just a girl who wanted to be on TV, and I was fortunate enough and blessed enough to get an opportunity. And I was really naive enough to think that when I got those opportunities, I got them because I was special and because they saw my uniqueness and they wanted to support me and make me a star and put me in the front. But what I realized was that in every opportunity, whether it was on camera or a leadership role in a corporation, the goal, once they saw that uniqueness, was to homogenize it and to strip away everything that made you special.
Wow.
And to make you more like what they felt was acceptable. So it took a long time for me to really embrace that idea of walking in my authentic self and even understanding what that means.
I think about the way that if we're not careful, we will accept someone stripping away what actually makes us an individual.
Yes.
And our entire purpose of the masterful creation we are. If we're not careful, in order to fit in, and I feel so urgently that this is happening on multiple platforms for people, in order to fit in, we will allow a system, a culture, an organization, a person to strip away what is uniquely who we are and why we're here in order to be something else, and we never actually feel okay.
No,
We
No.
get lost.
Yeah, you get lost. And I talk about it in the book, and from
Mhm.
Fake to Phenomenal, I talk about that idea of my wander years. And I talk about that in the chapter where I basically had a crisis,
Mhm.
and I decided that I just couldn't do it anymore. I wasn't sure how to articulate it or put it into words, but I just knew that I could not continue to live this external life where it was all about acquisition and accolades and accomplishments and winning.
Mhm.
Like, I needed to really go deep inside, and I would say maybe around I would say 2001, right after
Mhm.
9/11. I talk about that in the book, is when the shift started to happen. So for the last 21 years of my
Mhm.
life, I've been on this changed transitional period in my journey where it really is about tapping into who Renee is and really
Mhm.
getting to know who she is and expressing that to the world in a different way.
In this season in time,
Hmm.
coming out of another very traumatic experience, not only for our country but for the globe, I feel like people are having kind of that reckoning moment
Hmm.
of one. I can't waste any time. I have said this
Yep.
so many times in so many meetings in multiple settings, whether it has been in front of teachers or principals or a teacher teaching kiddos or a boardroom. I've stressed we don't have any more time to not show up authentically and actually see people for who they are and begin to really create space for them to be allowed to show up
Yeah.
authentically and be who they've been created to be. I
Hmm.
feel like we just don't have that time anymore. Can you give us any insight? And there probably is an absolute chapter in the book, and before we are done, I know we keep referencing it, but we are going to tell you how to get from fake to phenomenal. We will absolutely do that before we're done. But before we do that,
Hmm.
what did you need to do when you are talking about embracing self discovery? What is that? And what do we need to do when we know that we can't waste any more time being fake?
Oh, that's a great question, because you know probably more than anybody else, because you teach it, preach it, live it, breathe it. The number one thing that you have to do, it's a mindset shift. And you geek out over the brain, and I love when you geek out over the brain because I think it just makes so much sense, right? Because it's a mindset shift,
Mhm.
and it doesn't happen overnight, and it's not something that's going to be a miracle cure. And in order to really be able to think about yourself in a different way, you have to do things that you've never done before. And you have to open up your life and allow people to pour into you who are really genuinely living and walking their purpose and their calling. Because people who are walking in their purpose and calling genuinely will want to bring you along.
Yes.
They're
Yes.
not going to have that, oh no,
Mhm.
that lack of abundance
Mhm.
mentality.
Mhm.
They're going to want to bring you along. They're going to invite you in,
Mhm.
and there's going to be open space. And to be able to really accept that idea that I need a mindset shift. Things aren't working, things don't feel right. It's not good or whatever. And to be able to articulate that out loud and to be able to do the work necessary in order to build yourself, the self that God has designed you to be, it's a diligent process and it's a commitment. But for me, the alternative, my spirit just dies. And I just remain miserable, depressed, disconnected. You walk around like like you're just living, you're just existing, you're just surviving.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not good enough for me anymore.
I don't think it's good enough for anyone anymore. And when you talk about a mindset shift, that for me is a powerful opportunity for people to recognize that this is actually going to be work, that there isn't a magic wand, that there isn't just this quick fix. I know we live in a Google culture and we want a checklist, but it's not. I had a training earlier today where I asked people the difference between a strategy and a system. And oftentimes people want a strategy to change the system when actually they're two different things. And a strategy, you might reach for a strategy in the moment, but what's actually going to change you is the consistent practice that you build into a system and a routine that rewires your mind.
Yes.
And people keep reaching for a strategy. Tell me the tip, tell me the thing, and then get startled when there's no change. You're saying a mindset shift. You've got to be willing to do the work. And what I hear is create a system to your thoughts, your lifestyle that will create that shift.
And I love that, because the whole idea about what you're talking about is that whole idea of, when you're trying to change a culture, when you're trying to change yourself, it's a process. It's not a one and done. I was talking about that in my live today. I use present progressives whenever I do subtitles, so present progressive, it's like, it keeps going. It's active. It's ongoing. It's not a one and done, right? It's an ing. It keeps moving. So if you're looking for a one and done, you might pay that $10,000 price tag. And you might get like instantaneous, gratification, but it's not sustainable. I promise you that. And I say that from experience. Because for so many years, I was looking for that one and done. What's going to make me feel good? What's going to make me feel better? What's going to make me feel better is long-term change.
Yes.
Right.
And even in, I think as a culture, we get caught up in that feel good. You've been a part of our girlfriend gatherings, and we've really unpacked the challenge that I actually don't care about how you feel. It's not about, because our feelings are flaky. They will be up, they will be down. But it becomes, will you be disciplined enough to be obedient to what you have been called to do? Because if you continue to be so flaky, you are leaving someone waiting for you to show up to help them to pass the baton. It's not about how you feel.
Yes.
It doesn't matter. Do it afraid.
Yeah, girl.
Do it uncomfortable.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So I feel like because of the experiences you've had, that prompted you to write the book. So tell me, where did the book come from fake to phenomenal?
The book was birthed from pain and rejection. Because as you well know, when we are in our pain and we are in our hard place, that's when our heart is softest. And that's when God can really use you.
Yes.
And it's up to you to accept the call. Right? So he gives us a choice.
Right.
He's a gentleman. He doesn't make you do anything. But when I was fired from a job that I loved, Vidra, I loved it. And I was fired from this job. Long story short, when I left the opportunity that I had to be elevated from interim executive director to executive director, and they let me go, what happened was I was so angry and so bitter. I was encouraged to write, and I wanted to write a book, but I said, I want to write a scathing book that
shows my bitterness.
Yes. But then, I started writing a little bit, and I said, I think I might have a bigger, better story to tell. And it was, my my original title was The Judas Kiss. That's how betrayed. Yeah.
Wow.
So that's how betrayed I felt. I felt like, and I remember calling our mutual friend Cheryl.
Mhm.
I remember calling her and saying, I feel like the Bible is coming alive in my life. I can really understand or relate to that whole idea of really being betrayed when I'm doing my best work. And so I shifted my mindset, and then from fake to phenomenal was born. And I make it sound a lot simpler than it was, but it was really a decision, I think, Vidra, to use this opportunity, because I decided to write the book, but to use the opportunity to glorify God in the process
Mhm.
and to serve people. So even as I was starting to write or shift my mindset from the Judas Kiss, I was still thinking that I wanted to do something that was just a memoir. But I thought, memoir. Okay, so I'm telling people about my life. Who is that going to help? Jesus is very clear. He's like, "You love me, you feed my sheep."
Yeah.
It's
Right.
it's like
Right.
it's not a guesswork
Right.
what God calls us to do. And so that's why it became not only a memoir, but a personal development book where people could really go on their own self-discovery journey, because it's a memoir in the first part of the chapter. And then at the end, there's open-ended journal prompts that really help you to think about what you just read and process that information.
When we come back from this first break, I'm looking forward to actually digging into something you said that hit me, because sometimes I think people get so caught up in what somebody did to them that they sabotage the opportunity to move forward because they are so tied to the loyalties of their past. And then being able to actually move forward and add value. And we had a guest on some months ago, Aaliyah, and she shared, we have an assignment to pass the baton, but you can't pass the baton looking behind you. So when we come back from this break, I'm looking forward to you continuing to give us some nuggets from the book.
Okay.
And if you could unpack for me, what did you do to let go of the bitterness? Because I feel like some people are still holding on to it and it's getting in their way. We're getting ready to take our first break. And last week we had the people's nurse on, and she shared how it is her life's mission to bring love to the streets. So check out this commercial and check out her website and get connected on a health movement to educate, to empower, and to spread out access to address inequity. We'll be right back.
Clear?
Awesome. Hello, people. Hello, Juanetta.
Are they commenting?
They yes. Are they? She said, "Are they commenting?" Y'all, come on, give us some hearts, because we got so caught up in the conversation, I had to put the phone down, y'all. Yeah, give her some hearts, y'all.
That's nice.
Yes. Hello, Donna. Hello, Sandra, and oh, hello, Kyla. Yes,
Hey, Kyla.
she usually has something else, so we appreciate you logging in. Hello, Cheryl. You know Cheryl had to be. She had to be here. Hello, yes, we love you, Cheryl. Hello, Chayla. Our girlfriend gathering is in the place.
That's awesome.
Hello, Esther. Welcome, welcome. Hello, Dr. Curry. It is awesome to see all of you. Now, we want to be able to, look, she didn't give me permission, but I'm going to do it anyway. So Dr. Renai Ellison's book launch is Sunday. So we want to make sure as many people as possible know about the book leading into the launch. So if you are on here right now, I want you to share this conversation onto your page. So take it from my page onto your page so that we can multiply the opportunity for people to hear about from fake to phenomenal. Help a sister out. Share, share. I know. I love the hearts too. Absolutely. But share. I love the hearts, but share because we are excited for you.
Thank you.
We are coming back.
All right. Here we're coming back.
Mhm.
This is Living Strong, the flip side of adversity with Dr. Veer Jackson. To reach the live show today, call into 1-888-346-9141. That's 1-888-346-9141. You may also send an email to info@livingstrongllc.com. Now, back to Living Strong, the flip side of adversity.
Welcome back. We have been having a conversation with Dr. Renai Ellison and her book, From Fake to Phenomenal. And she just dropped out a whole bucket of nuggets and became very honest and transparent about where the book came from, why it was created. And just before our break, I asked if you would share what helped you drop rejection, bitterness, in order for you to be able to actually do this authentically.
Reminding myself what God says about me.
Yes.
So we have a choice every day. A lot of people who are tuning into your radio show are people who believe in God and follow Christ and go to church. Many people forget sometimes what God says about them. And I was one of those people. You know, whenever someone on earth would say or make me feel that I wasn't worthy, I bought it. I believed it. You're too female, you're too black, you're too overweight, you're too smart, you're too educated, you're too overqualified, you're not, you don't fit in. You know, all the things that I felt my whole entire life were lies. And to be able to get to a place in my life where I could honestly look at what people say and compare it to what God says and finally embrace that God believes that I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. That I'm the head and not the tail. I mean, all those things that I've heard in church my whole entire life, for whatever reason, I was able to really internalize it and make a conscious decision to glorify the God I serve with this book.
Can I ask you a question real quick? Because I'm curious about something that I had a conversation earlier with someone. When you made that shift, can I ask you, did your practices around the word change? What was different about your practices?
I wanted more.
You wanted more. Did you do more?
Yeah.
Did you study more?
Yeah.
Before were you studying?
Not as much.
So you increased the studying, you increased your desire to want more. As you studied, you probably began to feel like you wanted more. I feel like that's where people are getting hung up. They're wanting this feeling to happen and they want the emotion to lead and the action to follow when it's the other way around.
Vedra knows it's the brain, girl.
The action has to be first.
Yes.
The action has to be first. You got to change your practice.
You can't feel it and then expect to want to do it. You have to do it in spite of how you feel.
Yeah.
Because if I did what I felt, I wouldn't have written From Fake to Phenomenal. And it would not have been a memoir and a personal development book. It would have been a completely different story. And it would not have laid a foundation for changing the trajectory of the rest of my life.
Yes. And the life of everyone who is going to read the book. Now, you've been transparent about your mental health. So how has struggling with your mental health actually impacted you over the years?
I believe in my heart of hearts that Oh, okay. So you'll find out when you read the book that I was diagnosed.
Okay.
And I truly believe in my heart of hearts that my inability to really know who I was a factor
Okay.
in me being diagnosed.
Mm-hmm.
And I really genuinely believe in my heart of hearts that had I had a little bit more self knowledge and understanding about who God says I am,
Mm-hmm.
things would have been very different. And I would have, maybe I would have been diagnosed, but the way I handled the diagnosis, the choices that I made, the way I lived my life, I think would have been different. I wouldn't have wandered in the desert quite as long.
Yeah.
I would have been able to make better decisions.
When I think about, and I promise I will not get all going with the brain, but when I think
I don't mind
about how from our earliest years, those neurological pathways are created from repeated experiences. And if there is not a repetition of worthy, of value, of recognizing what God has actually said, like there's a repeated pathway in our brain, then when things happen, when our value is questioned, we then question ourselves. And without that pathway being fortified, we wander.
Yeah.
And in that wandering, it really just becomes a survival response instead of a thriving opportunity. And
no matter how much success. So let's be clear about this, because I think you co-sign with me on this. When I'm talking about thriving, I'm not talking about cars, clothes, and cribs. That's
tell it.
That's not what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about getting a better car. I'm not talking about living in a better house. And I'm not talking about wearing Louis Vuitton and, Fendi. What I'm talking about has nothing to do with external. Nothing. It's how you feel about you. And it's all internal. It's in life. Hear me.
Yes.
Life is an introspective journey. You cannot live your life outside.
We have seen far too many people over the past few years. It's been quite a few years where people who from the outside we thought had everything and they have taken their life.
Yeah. And it's interesting that you say that, because one of the reasons and a catalyst to me making the decision to make this book of service to people. You're probably familiar with Chesley Christ.
Yes. That one made me, I had to sit down for a minute.
I know.
I didn't know her, anything, but it took my breath away. And I had to pause because I could not wrap my mind around it.
I still can't. I still have a hard time. But when I say that she was, in so many ways, her life and her death, there was something visceral that happened to me when I heard about her passing. I never knew her, never met her. Our paths never crossed. But this woman was a Miss USA 2019. She was a lawyer. A trained lawyer, passed the bar, practiced law, the whole 9 yards, not just, interested in law. She was a correspondent on a television show. So she was interviewing celebrities, Tom Hanks and all kinds of celebrities. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful girl. Gorgeous.
Stunning.
And she put her feet on a ledge and jumped from her high-rise condominium and took her own life by suicide. And when I heard about that, there was something so impactful for me. And to this day, when I talk when I write, when I speak, I think about her. And I think about the women like her who appear to have it all.
Yes.
And that's why whenever I see you, Vidra, I see your beauty and I see your talent and I see everything that you've accomplished. But you will notice I will always ask you, how are you?
Yes. And mean it.
And wait and dig.
Yes.
Because I want to make sure that as you are feeding sheep, that you also get fed. Because I know what it was like for me not to get fed by people who just want to take when you're doing well.
Yeah.
And I never want to be that girl. So, you know, her life definitely, her death really inspired me in so many ways to shift the way I think about external acquisition and validation.
It takes me back to our earlier comment that we just don't have time not to see one another, to actually see with the intention of understanding, because there are people who have many things but are empty on the inside, who are on many platforms but feel absolutely alone and unseen, even though they are seen all the time. We are in a stage and an age, and we have an opportunity in this moment to become more intentional about seeing one another. So it's not just, how are you? Oh, I'm fine. No, how are you? And when you sense that the answer is quick, curt, or inauthentic, we have got to stop, walk back, and say, I'm not sure about that answer. I'm going to ask again. We have to. When you talk about, so in writing the book, you made a drastic pivot in your career. So what did it take to make such a severe and unusual change to your career? Because I know many people are changing careers, making shifts. What did you have to do that?
I was at a point, and it's a whole chapter in the book. It's chapter 3, I think, which is the breakdown. And it was a time in my life where I had no choice, Vidra. I was either going to get out of TV and step away from the lights and cameras, or I was going to literally either die physically or die spiritually and be in an insane asylum. Like literally. Like I'm not like exaggerating, joking, nothing. I couldn't handle it. I was losing it, literally, and everything was falling apart. So, you know, a lot of times people will say, "Oh, well, you know, you got your master's, you got your doctorate, go girl." I'm like, no. Actually, that probably should have happened right out of high school. I shouldn't have had to wait that long, but I was wandering so long trying to figure it out. And I talk about it in the book. You know, I'm on television selling blood pressure cuffs and ionizers. Why wasn't I in law school? Like like digging a little bit deeper and finding the real me, like using. Thank God that I've been able to capitalize on the skills that I learned over that period of time and really be able to leverage them to do some really great things in my career now. So it was never a waste, but I would always say that that's why it's so beautiful to be able to start when you're young, really knowing who you are and figuring out who you are and being committed to that process at an early age. Because the older we get, the harder it is to change.
Yes.
right? And so I digress. But anyway,
So, but I want to actually take a moment right there,
okay.
because I'm getting ready to get vulnerable myself,
Mm,
because I feel like there are people, because I have said this to myself,
mm,
that I'm if I don't do it now, I'm too old to be able to,
mm,
or discounting the fact that, well, I missed that, that's passed me by.
mm,
You made a career shift and you're continuing to evolve and write an author and podcast, and you are continuing to live and not be afraid of the fact that time is moving on.
mhm.
Can you speak to someone who feels like it's too late?
Mm. I believe that the best is yet to come.
Mm.
It's a
Mhm.
chapter in my book, literally, because I would not go back to my youth if you gave me $1 million, because I did not enjoy my youth. It was not a time of pleasure for me. You know how people think about their youth and they think, oh, when I was a little girl, oh, I went to the prom, and da, da, da.
Mhm.
I think of it as torture.
Mm.
And so I look forward to my life. And I think about, when God says that, your latter days will be better than your former days. And I embrace that. Whenever I hear that scripture, I just go bananas, because I really feel, I was just talking about this in my live the other day, like the world is my playground now, that I get to really live out a life that is what God intends for me.
Mhm.
And there's more time behind me than in front of me. So to really be able to value that. And I talk about this the other day, and I said, when I was a little girl, I hated the playground.
Mm.
I hated the playground because when I would go on the playground, that's when kids would bully me and torture me. And they didn't want to play with me, and they thought I was too fat, and they would slow down. I would slow down the merry-go-round, and all kinds of crazy things I had to deal with as a child. But now I get to switch my mindset, and I get to really live in the moment and savor this beautiful gift that God has given me. And I want to advocate to anybody who thinks that too much time has passed by and they're not able to. I talk about the idea of really being able to unleash your aspirations, visit that part of yourself that has regret, and really take time to examine that and unpack that, and maybe get a coach or a therapist or whomever to help you and support you in that process. But know logically first, like you said, in your mind, that the best is yet to come.
Yeah. You just gave someone permission to start again.
Mm,
It's okay
mhm.
to start again.
It is.
Every single day. Crystal Evans Hurst has a saying that every day is day one.
Mm. Today is the first day of the rest of my
Yes.
life. Yep.
Every day is day one.
Mhm.
So you just gave someone permission
Mhm.
to start again.
Yeah.
What's your favorite part of the book?
Mm.
I know that's hard to ask an author.
It's like asking your favorite
yes,
child, right?
yes.
So I would say definitely chapter 3.
Okay.
It was the hardest to write.
Mhm.
It's the breakdown chapter, where I literally talk about my mental health journey, and how it came to fruition, and what I went through, and all the pain that I suffered emotionally and psychologically. And it was the hardest to write, but the secret, so I tell you that it's 8 chapters. At the end of each chapter, there are what I call Renaissance reflections, which is a way for you to kind of reflect on what I've just written about myself. But I also reveal a secret. And so the secret that I reveal in chapter 3 is that a breakdown leads to a breakthrough.
Mhm.
That sometimes we have to come to that impasse.
Mhm.
We have to come to that point in our life where we have to make a decision. Everybody goes through that. Everybody. And when you make that decision, it's like the road less traveled,
Yes.
you know, and the best decision that you can make is to always choose yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so that's one. And then the other one that was really hard to learn was in chapter 2, secret number 2, which is being worthy is my birthright. And you know that when we are from conception, we inherit the right to feel worthy and to be worthy. And that when we are brought into this world, that it's intertwined in our DNA, that worthiness. And should be, it's not something you have to earn. It's not something that you have to work hard for. And you know, sometimes we as Black women, woo woo.
Ooh.
Yeah. So yeah, rest,
Yeah.
soft ears, embrace that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And you know what? It's interesting that you, as we talk about educating and empowerment and equity, and as Black women, the element of that I can't be soft, that I've got to even make sure that my daughters are hard. Um, can yes, we want to be able to recognize our value and speak that value and live that value. But I think there's also something that we get robbed of in relationships when there's this persona that we have to be hard, that we have to be the toughest one, that we have to be on the grind, that we have to be, and all of the have to be's that we chase after, and it leaves us exhausted.
Yeah.
What are some of your thoughts about that?
I agree 110%. I the one story that comes to mind is my hair journey.
Okay.
My hair journey. I talk about that in the book, and I talk about how I was in this relationship, and I had like every hairstyle that you could possibly imagine. I had braids. I had a weave. I had a short crop. I had, in a matter of like 5 years, I had gone through like 9 or 10 different hairstyles. And what I realized was that I didn't know what was beautiful because I wanted so desperately to be beautiful for him. But then I had to be beautiful for the world. And then I wanted to be beautiful for myself. And then I was confused. So I just kept changing my hair, changing my hair, changing my hair, changing my hair, changing my hair. And I realized that it was because I wasn't in touch. I wasn't in tune. I wasn't connected with what made me feel beautiful.
Yeah.
Because I had practiced my whole life being beautiful for a man, being beautiful for a corporation. What does the corporation deem as beautiful? What does this man deem as beautiful? What did my mother, my grandmother, deem as beautiful? I never had an opportunity to really sit down and say, what do I need to do to my hair to make me feel beautiful? And it wasn't really until I got Sister Locks that it made sense, because somebody said, it's not about the style, it's about the journey. I was like, what?
Yes.
The style? What? The style? It's not about the
right.
style, it's about the journey. How is that even possible connected to hair? And she said, it's an internal process. It's a disconnection from expectation.
Yeah. And that you have defined what is beautiful for you. Yeah. You know what? This has been an amazing, I know, it's been an amazing conversation.
Thank you.
So can you tell me, out of all of this and all of that you have shared and your transparency, how would you describe your vision and mission for Dr. Renai Ellison now?
Yeah. I think it goes back to what I said earlier. It goes back to that whole idea of when the disciples said, I love you, Lord, I love you, Lord, I love you, Lord. And he said, if you love me, you'll feed my sheep. And that scripture I've heard my whole life, Vidra. I've heard it my whole life. And it finally makes sense to me now. It finally makes sense. I feel like when I'm serving, like really genuinely serving, that's my expression. You know, my pastor taught me that prayer doesn't have to just be, oh Lord, you know, how excellent is thy name and all the other. It doesn't have to be that. It can be written, it can be oral, it can be mental.
Mm-hmm.
And I find that my work, my ministry, my work is my ministry. Mm-hmm. It's my offering to the world. And if my company and my book and everything that I do can't glorify God, I don't want any parts of it. Mm-hmm. If I get to make a difference in $1, that's a bonus, because we do need to pay Pico.
Yes, gotta pay the bills.
But it doesn't mean that I need to make $1 million, and it doesn't even mean that I need to make 6 figures this year. Mm-hmm. And I believe that that's where I am right now in my life and in my journey.
And I feel your stability, your groundedness. In as you shared, I felt my spirit settling. Because there are so many people who are running, trying to figure out, am I beautiful? Is this the paycheck? Is this the job? Is this the platform? Am I an influencer? And what you just said is grounding in that the one thing that matters is, am I doing what God has called me to do? And my work is my ministry, and you're adding value to others' lives. And we say thank you.
Thank you.
We say thank you.
Thank you.
I don't want our time to get past us without you sharing how people can find the book and absolutely how they can follow you, because you have you continue on the journey of sharing your nuggets and your wisdom on your own social media platforms. So tell us how to follow you and how to find the book.
Well, you can always, you can go to Amazon, you can go to Barnes & Noble or Books A Million to get the book. You can also reach out to me on my website, which is iwillembracelife.com. And my whole reason for that domain name is the conscious effort that people will make when they type that into the browser. My hope, and it's, you know, maybe silly, but I'm hoping that it'll be a mantra for people, that when they type that into the browser, they are committing that I will embrace life. I will recognize what God says about me, and I will do the work that I am called to do and to be in my purpose. And on Facebook, Renai Ellison, and yeah, so that's the best way to reach me. And then if you're interested in my Renaissance circles, definitely go to my website, and there's information about how to join the Renaissance Circle or the Renaissance Inner Circle.
And we didn't even talk about your coaching platform and all that you do there. And so can you tell us a little bit more about the Renaissance Circle and what you as a coach who is helping others understand the steps of embracing life for themselves? I think I know, but I would love for you to put words to it. What is unique about your coaching approach and the Renaissance Circles?
Well, what was interesting was when I was going through my doctoral program and I was doing my dissertation, I learned that connection, community, and relationship are highly valuable to women, especially Black women. And we shy away from that sometimes. And I believe that my company and my mission is to really support people who are looking for that community, connection, and relationship, and to help them to understand that that is the connection to authenticity. You know, my pastor, he says, you can't be your best self by yourself. And to be able to really get the most out of yourself, you have to be in community with people.
Absolutely. Safe community.
Safe community, and the Renaissance circles,
Yeah.
it facilitates that, and the inner circle is a little bit more of a private connection there.
But you're living out what you shared earlier, in that when you find someone who is walking in their purpose and they are free to be authentic and they have put down their mask and they're actually focused on the most important things, which is serving others. When you're in their space, they're going to let you shine because they know their shining won't be dimmed just because your shining is happening. And the moment that you're in spaces with people who want to dim your light, you recognize they're not ready.
A telltale sign is when you're in dialogue with somebody and that person is doing all of the talking. You notice how when we talked today, it was like a tennis match. Like I walked in, how you doing, Vijay? You asked me, it's like back and forth, right? And it feels good. But when you're in a dialogue with somebody and they're dominating the conversation, and it's not a therapy session, there's a problem there.
Yeah.
Something's happening to them. They need something that they're not receiving, and they need more support than they think they need. So I find myself doing a lot of listening in my life.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of hurt people out there.
Yeah. Wow. We have had an amazing conversation with Dr. Renai Ellison. And I want to make sure for our listeners that you have the accurate spelling of Renai, because it's not the usual. So it's Renai Ellison. And again, her website is
IWillEmbraceLife.com.
And the book you can find on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and Books A Million. And again, the title is From Fake to Phenomenal. And it absolutely is an opportunity for you to gain insight, hear secrets from her heart, but most of all, begin to do the work to create the change that will allow you to put down the mask for such a time as this, my sister. Yeah. Thank you so much for being in conversation with me today.
It was my pleasure. My pleasure and my privilege. Thank you for sharing your platform with me.
Absolutely. So everyone, same time, same place, right here. Thank you for joining this conversation, and we look forward to seeing and connecting with you again on the flip side. Have a great one.
You're clear.
Awesome. Thank you, Josh.
Thank you. You have a wonderful day. We'll talk to you next time.
Okay, bye-bye. All right, so I've got you trapped in the room. So usually I ask the virtual guest, do you have time for one more question? But see, once we get off the air, because you're trapped in the studio, we have one more question. And I'm thinking about what women who are suffering from, and we mentioned this in preparation, but we didn't actually say the words on air, imposter syndrome. Now, I'm actually not only is it that I'm not worthy, but there's like this element of people are going to find out that I'm not who they think I am. First of all, generally what people think you aren't in the first place, because many people put stuff on me and I'm like, you know what? I am just a prayer away and grateful for God's grace every day. And it takes a lot of work to stand in spaces, right? So when you think about imposter syndrome, what comes up for you? What are some of your thoughts?
It's a lack of self-knowledge. It's a lack of knowing yourself. It just goes back to that root of not really standing firmly in who you are. And I think the idea of knowing yourself goes back to that whole idea of learning.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes people don't necessarily want to learn about themselves. They think it's supposed to be osmosis. Like it's just supposed to happen. Like you're just
Mm-hmm.
supposed to know what you feel and know what you want. And it's interesting, as a coach, and you probably know this, when you ask that open-ended question, what is it that you want from this conversation? I don't know. I just want to talk. I just want to process. I just wanted to hire a coach and pay you a lot of money so you could listen to me complain. No, that's not good enough.
No, that's not gonna work.
So I think it's really just getting back to that whole idea of being committed to doing, like you said, the work
Mm-hmm.
of getting to know who you really are, what you want, asking yourself those questions.
Mm-hmm.
What's important to me? And not just quoting a scripture,
Right.
but really being able to embody it,
Mm-hmm. Live it.
live it,
Live the scripture.
live the
Mm-hmm.
scripture. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. When you said that doing the work to really learn who you are, something else on the other end of the continuum popped up from me. Is it also, in some respects, that we need to be willing to do the work to unlearn?
Yes.
And some people don't want to unlearn. Like there's
They're trapped.
there is a loyalty and allegiance and actually a fear of going into the space where the lie resides, to unlearn that lie and then replace it with truth.
Mm-hmm.
But that takes work.
It does. It's a cultivation. It's an excavation.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a dig. It's a dig deep.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Comparison, I think, also
It's a calling
fuels,
killer.
right? But it fuels that I don't think you can stay in imposter syndrome without you're comparing yourself to somebody else, and therefore thinking that I can't be that, or so someone is going to discover that I'm not that, instead of really just thinking about who am I?
Who am I? And yeah, I was just having this conversation today about and I can't remember where it is in the Bible where the prophet comes to the woman and he says, what do you have in your house? You know that story?
Mm-hmm.
And she finds the Elijah, and she finds the jars and she pours the oil, and
Yep.
that. And I was thinking about that today, and I was thinking so many of us are like that woman who don't realize that we are sitting on a gold mine. And we're turning down opportunities that will lead us to the destiny that we claim we want for our lives because we can't see the vision. I see it every day. I see it in my coaching practice, in my friendships, in my acquaintanceships, in my professional life. I see it every day, Vidra. Shonda Rhimes wrote a book called The Year of Yes,
Yep.
and she's one of the most successful women on the planet. And she said that she was walking, the story, she was walking in this place where she wasn't really saying yes to things because she was an introvert and she really didn't like to be out. So she committed to this year of yes. So just saying yes to appointments and engagements and things like that, and how it changed her. And I would really advocate, opportunity doesn't always come out of the sky. I mean, we know that favor is on 2 feet. Bottom line. How many times have you heard that preached? And yet and still, we still just look right over what's right in our hands.
Because it didn't look like what we thought it was
Yes.
going to look like.
And it might require a little bit different kind of work than we might be used to or want to engage in. And I'm just going to challenge anybody who's listening, watching today, take an inventory of your life and see what God has placed in your hand. If there is a level of discontent in your spirit, if you're feeling like something is missing, I guarantee you, just like that woman in that story with Elijah, there is something right there, right under your nose that you are missing, that's going to lead you to your destiny and to your purpose and your calling. I know it for a fact.
And to continue that thought, going back to something you said earlier, is what resonates with me in that story is she thought that she only had this. And if she had stuck with her thought, she would have never gone back and baked the last bit for Elijah. If that belief of, I don't have enough, this is all I have to hold on to this. If she had never just trusted and just been obedient, and even though it didn't look like what she thought, and she thought she only had enough for one last meal, but she went out and did what Elijah told her to do, even though it didn't look like what she thought. And so many elements of what you've said in this episode is out of just be obedient and trust God at his word.
Yeah. Don't think you know better.
Don't think you know better, because you don't.
He's God for a reason.
He's just waiting for you
he
to.
He kind of made the moon and the stars, so he can figure you out. You know, like,
Go,
okay. We're
go
good.
back
We're
to
in
the
good
house.
hands.
Go back to the house.
Go back to the It's so
Yeah.
true. Yep.
Yeah. Thank you, sis.
My pleasure. My pleasure, Dr. Jackson. Bye.
Love ya.